These days, if you criticise someone's political allegiance, their favourite film, or their taste in music, nobody bats an eyelid, and the person being criticised will likely either consider your criticisms or they'll ignore them. Hell, even if you criticise someone's religion, the reaction is generally the same. That is, unless you criticise Islam. Then you'll have the regressive left, social justice warriors, and all sorts of Muslims calling you gross, racist, and Islamophobic. This is Criticising Islam is Islamophobic, Debunked. So, this video is going to rustle a few jimmies, there's no doubt about it. And while I assume that most of you lovely lot will resonate with what follows, some of you inevitably won't. And what's more is that some of you, such as those who got here from a far left source, will have already disliked this video and labelled me an Islamophobe, and that's a problem, a big problem. To quote Sam Harris, we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry towards Muslims as people, and it's because of this fact that this video exists altogether. Anyhow, the purpose of this video is to convince people, including yourself, if you're not already convinced, that conflating criticism of Islam and Muslims with Islamophobia isn't just a problem, it's dangerous. With that said, I want to begin by making it abundantly clear that I am not saying that Islamophobia is a myth or that it doesn't exist. It does. There are unfortunately many people who are prejudiced against Islam and Muslims for racist and bigoted reasons. However, despite there being people who are prejudiced against Islam for racist reasons, it is a fact that Islam is not a race, period. To call all critics of Islam racist is as moronic as calling all critics of the new Ghostbusters movie sexist. Now that we have settled that Islam is not a race, let's now address some of the criticisms of Islam that have been conflated with bigotry, racism and Islamophobia. Beginning with the assertion that Islam and Muslims treat homosexuals appallingly. Is this a valid criticism or is it invalid and indeed Islamophobic? Well, Iran, with a 99.4% Muslim population, and Saudi Arabia, with an estimated 95% Muslim population, both demand the death penalty for homosexual practice, and they both justify this rule with explicit reference to Islamic teaching. That is, explicit reference to Sharia law. Within the Quran, Muhammad says, whoever you find committing the sin of the people of Lot, kill them, both the one who does it and the one to whom it is done. And the Hadith plainly states, if a man who is not married ceased committing sodomy, he will be stoned to death. What's more is that poll after poll after poll confirms that Muslims overwhelmingly want homosexuals to be punished. To name but one example, a poll surveyed by Civitas found that 61% of British Muslims endorsed the statement that homosexuality is wrong and should be illegal. Hence, the assertion that Islam and Muslims treat homosexuals appallingly is not only valid, it's a fact. What about the assertion that 99% of suicide attacks are by Muslims? Is this claim Islamophobic? It seems at best exaggerated, right? Well, according to the Institute of National Security Studies, in 2015, 450 out of 452 suicide attacks, that is, over 99% of suicide attacks, were indeed committed by Muslims with explicit reference to the Islamic teaching of jihad and martyrdom. The truth of the matter is that while the Quran and the Hadith don't promote suicide, they do promote martyrdom, which is the sacrifice of one's life in defense of Islam. To name but one example, the Quran states that, let those fight in the way of Allah who sell the life of this world for the other. Whoso fighteth in the way of Allah, be he slain or be he victorious, on him we shall bestow a vast reward. So, when Sam Harris says that, the truth that we must finally confront is that Islam contains specific notions of martyrdom and jihad that fully explain the character of Muslim violence. He is making a valid and fair criticism. He is not being Islamophobic. What about the assertion that Islam and Muslims treat women like second-class citizens? Is this a fair criticism? Well, from referring to wives as property, to stating that a man's testimony is worth twice that of a woman's, to the outright assertion that men are a degree above women, the Quran contains countless verses that belittle and subjugate women. Now of course, the Bible also grotesquely belittles women, but the difference is, at least in this day and age, that Christians no longer endorse this nonsense, but Muslims do. To name but one example, according to Pew Research Center, who over 4 years conducted more than 38,000 face-to-face interviews in over 80 different languages, over 80% of Muslims agree that a wife must obey her husband. And finally, the last assertion that we'll address in this video is the statement that Islam is intolerant to criticism and wants critics killed. We already know the answer to this one, don't we? The Quran and the Hadith both have several verses explicitly demanding the death penalty to those who insult Islam. But to name but one example, the Quran states in verse 6:9-3 that who can be more wicked than one who invent a lie against Allah? If the death penalty is prescribed for a lesser crime, then it stands to reason that it should be imposed for the most wicked. Because of verses like this, and indeed because of Sharia law altogether, countries such as Iran, Saudi Arabia and Egypt all justify the death penalty to those who insult Islam, Allah, the Quran and Muhammad. And what's more is that polls around the world, to which I have linked to in the description, clearly show that Muslims favour making Sharia law the official law of their country, and by extension, they favour silencing those who criticise Islam. These facts may not fit the narrative of some of the left, but facts they remain. If Muslims want critics silenced, and the left delivers this to them, we'll be left with an ideology that can't be criticised, and that's never worked out well for humankind. So, with all of what I just said in mind, I criticise Islam because I think it is the motherlode of bad ideas. It makes otherwise decent people say and do atrocious things. From the denigration of women, to the denial of equal rights, to the rejection of science, to the celebration of harmful festivals, to the mistreatment of animals, to the genital mutilation of children, Islam not only warrants criticism, it necessitates it. If you know someone who would call such criticisms gross, racist and Islamophobic, then they're not only a fool, they're dangerous, and the consequences of them conflating criticism with bigotry may one day see our children in chains. They've got to wake up. Whether they agree with us or not, Islam, like all ideologies, must be open to criticism. And deep down, they damn well know it. Anyhow, on a lighter note, thank you kindly for the view. And here's an overwhelmingly powerful argument to consider. Not subscribing to my channel is subscription phobia. Therefore, if you're not subscribed to my channel, you're a subscription phobe. And you don't want to be one of them. That's worse than being racist, don't you know? Thanks guys. I need a cup of tea.